Well, today I got a new radio on the bench. It's a Montgomery Ward's 6D2425. I think it's a unique looking radio, and that's why I got it. The person I got it from did not listen to the radio, does not listen to their radios, don't even plug them in. They like to look at them, put them on the shelf and look at them, which I'm good with that. That's okay, they can do whatever they want, but they had refinished the cabinet and didn't do anything electrical to it, which I'm okay with, but there's some issues with the cabinet. As you can see, there's some chips in the veneer on the front, which I'm okay with that. There's a little bit of damage here on the bottom, I'll try and lift it up so you can see. I'm not gonna do anything with it. There's some more chips here in the veneer. Down here on the bottom, there's a chip in it. It's a pretty long chip, crack. But you know, it is what it is. It's a Montgomery Ward's, like I said, Montgomery Ward's like that. It's in the Writer's Perpetual Troubleshooter's Guide, Volume 9, which is 38 and older. The top of the radio, let's look at the dial here real quick. It still has the felt pads behind the knobs, which is really cool. The dial itself, let's see if we can get a little bit of better light in here on the dial. The dial has two scales, and I didn't see a switch, but you know, like I said, this is only the fourth radio I've ever really worked on. I guess meters is another way of expressing kilocycles. So 200 meters is 1500 kilocycles, which is 1500 kilohertz. So it's just another way of expressing it, but the dial does not work, so it's missing the dial cord, the volume, and on off. Kind of sounds funny. See, it kind of sounds funny, a little click afterwards. Yeah, I'm hoping that's in good shape, because replacing that could be a problem. The grill cloth, when they did it, they didn't put the grill cloth in here correctly. It's awful loose, and it does not look like the original grill cloth from the pictures I've seen on the internet. The top of the radio has got a unique feature in it with this inlay in the veneer. With an inlay in the veneer here that is damaged. Looks like water damage through here. There's a chip, big chip out of the veneer, chips in the front. Looks like maybe more water damage. But the main part of the radio looks okay, so I don't know if a guy could replace the veneer, or I don't know, maybe fill it in there with something. I don't know if I'm going to do anything with it. I think I'm going to just leave it the way it is. I'm okay with the way it looks. I'm alright with it. Because it looks pretty good standing back, you know, like 5 feet. You really can't see this stuff unless you look really hard, or you got really good eyesight. The sides of the radio are in good shape. This line they put here looks very nice. It's nice and crisp. The bottom of it down here, there's no real damage. There's some small nicks and stuff, but you know, from 1936, 37, I think it's in really good shape. I mean, it's very old. The back of the radio, I don't know if it came with the back, but you've got your two antenna wires. The old bottle style, I think that's what they call them in the grid, you know, the grid caps up top. The speaker is not attached to the chassis. It's got a plug that's separate, it appears to me. Pardon me. Here's the model number 6. You can barely see the 62425. And the chassis, they cleaned it up real nice. They got most of the dirt out of it. I don't think they spent a lot of time on it. But this black, I'm not sure what that is. I don't know if I'm going to do anything with it either. I'm pretty much okay with the way it looks right now. The tubes are really clean, and the numbers are still on them, so they didn't they didn't, you know, wipe them off, which I've seen that happen a lot. I've got some tubes that don't have numbers on them, so I have no idea what they are. This side of the radio's got one little mar in it right here, and it kind of looks more like a dent, like it got smacked. And then when they put the stain on it, when they refinished it, they didn't get in here and get this out. This sat in there longer, it looks like to me, possibly. And the bottom of it does look okay. It's not so bad. It does look okay. It's not real horrible. The parting line on here was really nice still. Very nice. Nice and crisp. A little dirt in there, but it's okay. So I think what we'll do is we'll get the radio out, the chassis out of the cabinet, and then we'll take a look. I think this is a piece of glass, so no polishing this time, which is really nice. I really like this trim around the dial. It looks really cool with the Montgomery wards, with the airline, logo down there. I think it says Montgomery wards too. Nope. Super Heterodyne Airline. Super Heterodyne Airline. So it doesn't say Montgomery wards on it anywhere. And these knobs, I really like the looks of these knobs. Oh yeah, there's a screw missing in the chassis too. So it's moving around. I'm going to have to come up with a screw for the chassis, which is no big deal. Like I said, I'll get the radio out of the... I'll get the chassis out of the radio, and we'll take a look at that dial and see what's going on with that. Which I think it's a pretty cool looking radio. We'll be back in a couple of minutes. Well, I've got the chassis pulled out, and I just unplugged the speaker off camera. The speaker has 4 wires, so I'm assuming the speaker is part of the power supply. The transformer is your, you know, the primary coil is probably part of the power supply filter setup. I haven't looked at the schematic real close, but they, if you can look at this connector, 2 of the pins are bigger and 2 of the pins are smaller. We'll have to look on the schematic and see what's going on there. When we do our initial check of the radio, we'll check the resistance of both those, field coil and voice coil. And we'll hook it up to the Payco RF signal generator, and we'll feed a tone into that speaker and see if it works. I did notice when I got the radio, this power cord was wadded up in here on this side, and it appears to me as though it poked a hole in the speaker. So that is very disappointing. I don't know if you can see it in there, but there is a crack in the speaker right there. And when I take it away, you can see light right there. Do you see the crack? I'm hoping that shows up in the camera. Maybe we'll move the camera, or we'll move the cabinet over a little bit. Maybe it'll show up more. Maybe if we turn this light off. We can see the, yeah, you can see the crack in the speaker. It's disappointing. I'm not a big speaker repair guy, but I will do my best. We'll have to look online how to do it properly. I've seen guys use coffee filter, that sort of thing, with some glue. I will do what I got to do to fix that. I've seen a hot glue technique where you take a hot glue gun and you just spread the hot glue over it thinly, and you do it on the backside, and that, you know, the hot glue is flexible when it's, you know, when it cools off, so it seems like a good way of doing it. We'll see, we'll cross that bridge when we get to it, but this has to be plugged into the chassis in order to run the radio. I will get the speaker out of there eventually. I'm not going to do that right now. I'm going to set the cabinet to the side. We're going to take a look as to why that band, or why the dial indicator is not working. I'll slide this out of the way so I do not kick at that. I don't want to bust that dial. Get that out of the way. Pardon me. I always take all the small parts and I put them in a bag. I try to put them in a small bag here so I don't lose them. You can see the felt pads here, both felt pads, and the knobs. We'll clean those up eventually, but we'll put this to the side And I like to take all the tubes out too when I'm working on the radio, because I do not like soldering on these. I do not like soldering while the tubes are in there. These are old tubes. I have no idea how the connections are through here, but I think heating it is probably not a good idea. It may end up letting gas into these. These probably are hard to come by. I haven't looked, but you know, they've been with the radio. I mean, this is awards. This is an original tube. So just be careful with them, right? There's no reason not to take them out when you're changing capacitors or when you're soldering on the socket, right? On the bottom side of the socket. There is no reason not to remove that. I just don't see a reason. So let's take a look at the dial. Oh, this is the bag I like to put them in. It's got an opening here at the top. I just put all of them in here, roll this up, and then I put it inside of a bigger Ziploc bag and I stash it somewhere out of the way so I cannot damage them. That system seems to work for me right now. Yeah, that's on there pretty good. That one's pretty tight. Uh-oh. This one's moving on top of the tube, you can see, which is not good. How's this one? That one's pretty tight. That one's not bad. We'll have to be careful when we remove this. We'll have to be extra careful with this tube. I will look online to see how to repair this if there is a repair. But if it's working, then I'm not gonna really mess with it too much. But just be careful with it. Let's take a look at the dial, at the power cord. I do not believe this is an original power cord, but it is very old. It's an old power cord. It's still flexible though. So maybe it's not so old. It's still really flexible. It's not so old. The end of it is though. Looks damaged. I think they had a piece of cardboard that slid over this and held it in place. I've got some reproduction cloth covered power cord. It's 2-wire, and then I've got some polarized plugs that are round, that are very nice looking. They're made out of Bakelite. I do like this one, but it's not polarized. And this does have a transformer, so it's probably not too critical that it has a polarized power cord, but since I have it and I do not like this power cord, I will go ahead and change it. On the clock radio, I probably should have put a polarized cord on it, a polarized connector, but I like that sideways connector on that clock radio we did the other day, so I did not change that. And it's a plastic chassis. I don't think there is a big chance of getting electrocuted with it, but I don't know how much that one's going to get used, so I'm going to keep it. I really like that one. I was thinking about giving it maybe for a Christmas gift. I may as of yet, but I might keep it because I like that. I like that clock radio a lot. So let's take a look at the dial. I don't want to take too much time. Oh yeah, you know, I'm going to have to do some research on this, but it definitely does not look like it uses wow. It looks like it's a metal band. It looked like it was a metal band. So there's a pin here. There's a pin right here on this driven pulley. Let's see if we can get a better look at that maybe. Let's see if we can zoom in on that. Yeah, you can see it there. There's a pin on this which keeps that band probably timed, right? So it doesn't slip on here. Because this can only move, the tuning handle can only move 90 degrees. Or 180, I guess, a half a circle, 180. Right, so the tuning dial fully open, or tuning condenser fully open, fully closed. So I'm gonna have to figure out how to make that. Let's see if there's any pictures on the internet of it. I'm sure there's I've seen a couple of videos on this, but I don't remember this. And I didn't watch all of them. You know, I didn't watch all of it. I just kind of looked at it. This is something unique here too. The way this is wrapped around here. not making a connection. It's just coupled to it. It's pretty unique. This coil, this upper coil here, I'm not sure if that's the oscillator coil or what that is. And is there an adjustment in the center of it in the back? And it does. Maybe that's just mounting. Maybe that screw there is just mounting. I don't know if you can see that. Maybe that's just for mounting. I don't think it's probably an adjustment. Of course, you do have your two adjustable condensers or capacitors right here. One has got to be for the oscillator and one is for the antenna. And I'm assuming the one turned in all the way is going to be for the oscillator. This one's probably for the antenna. And the antenna is two leads. Those two leads hanging out the back. Yep. You got a lighter colored. This one looks like the ground for the antenna. It's going to the chassis here. And the other one is, you know, obviously going up here to the back of that coil. There's a condenser there, a 0.5 200 volt condenser. 0.5 200 volt condenser we're gonna have to change, and a resistor we'll have to check. Dog bone resistor. There's our transformer. Oh, I don't know if you can see that. Look at that right there. Got split open. I'm assuming that this is not still connected. Most of these old guys here are not in the circuit unless this thing hasn't been used in a very, very long time. So let's zoom out a little bit here and take a look at the underside of the radio. We'll get a look at it here, and then I will start doing the... Oh yeah, look at that. Look like some of them have been changed. This is a replacement. This is a replacement. I don't know old capacitors, but these may be original, guys. This one looks like it's been changed at some point in its life. It's one of those plastic sprags. There's another coil here, and the dog bone resistors. There's a dog bone resistor here, and the old mica capacitors. These, what I've seen, I haven't had a lot of experience with these, but these really don't go bad. You don't mess with these. And then this is the big wire. I think this is a wire round multi-resistor. There's a name for this, and I can't think of it. The bottom side of the transformer and where our power cord connects. So, I mean, this is cloth covered. This electrolytic right here is cloth covered. Can we get to the, where's the bottom of the old one? Let's see, the bottom of the old one is right here, right under it. And it looks like they're still connected. Oh my God, it looks like it's still connected. That multi-sectional guy, it looks like it's still connected in there. I don't know if you can see that, but I mean, they're not clipped. I would assume that this would have been bypassed. So what is this guy? An 8 microfarad electrolytic capacitor going to chassis, and the other end of it's going over here to this tube. So our 41. We'll have to look on the schematic. We have to get the schematic out. It looks like it's a one section too. There's only one wire coming out of it. So it's a one section. Does this say on it how many sections it has in it? Does it say on it? You think they would have put that printing where we could read it? Of course not. Why would they do that? Why would they do that? Let me see if I can read it. Oh, I'm having trouble. I'm going to have to get the tubes out of the way and get a look in there at it. I can't read it. Yeah. Maybe that's a... How many wires are coming out of that? That transformer's really heavy, so that's got to be on the bottom side when I stand this up on its end. We could sit it on its side here like this. I don't think there's anything that really can get damaged if we set it like this. I don't know if that's better view for you or not. We'll take a gander at it here like that. You know what I can do is set it up on a couple of boxes. I've done that. I like doing that because it gets it up a little higher. It doesn't hurt my neck when I'm working on it. We'll get it up here a little bit. We'll get it up on some boxes. Yeah, that helps a little bit, doesn't it? Kind of fills the camera a little better. The screen a little better. Oh, so can we move this guy out of the way? No, he's got a metal mount. And he's connected down here. They kind of slid it over a rivet or something. I don't know if you can see that very well. We'll have to turn this. Maybe, yeah. Right here, it's got a metal mount. So we can't kind of put it over a rivet. I'm going to have to get a better look in there at that. Maybe a little better light for you on it. Yeah, maybe not. Guess none of that's really important. It's got to come out of there. It's obviously bulged. It's no good. So this radio is not getting plugged in until we have the electrolytics changed. Both of the electrolytics are bad in this radio. Hopefully this resistor's okay. I don't know about replacing this. I guess you could just put regular resistors there. If these are open, then you can use these as terminals, I guess. If not, I can come up with the terminal strip to mount in there. This is a very thin chassis again. Not very deep. You look at the side of it, it's, you know, let's see how deep is it. Let's take a measurement here. Oh, you can't see that off camera. Of course, why would I be on camera? So it's just like 1.1 inch deep. That's pretty thin, in my opinion. I haven't worked on a lot of radios. Like I said, this is only the 4th one I've ever worked on. But the first 2 I worked on had much deeper chassis. It was an automatic 410 and a Firestone. Oh, what model was that Firestone? I'm having a draw on it, but it was a 1940 Firestone, which I really like that radio too. We'll take a look at that someday. I'll show you those 2 radios. The 710 is very unique, or the 720 is the automatic 720 is a very unique radio. The way it's tuned, it does not have a tuning stator, and I forgot what the other name of it is. There's 2 names for this, but it doesn't have this style of tuning. It's got slugs. 2 coils of wire with slugs that slide in and out of it. It's pretty cool how that tuning condenser works on that. Oh, look at where the speaker plugs in. It says speaker right on it. Speaker right on it. Let's pull this tube and see what's written. This is a Ward's tube. Have to be careful pulling this. Oh, that's a tight socket. Yeah, look at that, Ward's. That's probably the original 5Y3. That's probably the original that came with it. Octal with the index. And it sure is marked. Look at that. Right in the socket. Tells you what tube it is. It's a 5Y3. Let's pull this guy and see if it's written on there too. These are the original tube sockets to this radio. Seems very interesting to me that they would have taken the time to print them right onto the sockets themselves. Sure enough, look at that, 41. And that's a 41. Don't know if that's coming through in the camera or not, but that's a 41. And it's marked 41 right on the socket. But there's no index in the center. But if you look at the bottom of it, there's 2 bigger pins and 4 smaller pins. I don't know if you can plug that in wrong or not. I guess if you gorilla it, you big dummy, don't put it in wrong, right? Don't force it. If it don't go, don't be stupid. That does look like the original switch that came with the radio, so hopefully that's not screwed up. And these ones, right, you just put them on here and turn them until they fall into place. Right, you see that? Can't go in. Then it just falls into place and you just push straight down on it. And it's in place. So I guess the next thing to do is probably to pull the, before I make a new band, because that's going to be a lot of headache in my opinion, and what to make it out of. Before I do any of that, I need to make sure that the parts that can't be replaced, the IF cans are okay, the transformer's okay, this coil that we looked at, that little coil sitting on top of the tuning condenser, make sure that one's alright, and the one that we've seen in the bottom down here as well, that this one's okay, that this coil's okay as well. If those are okay, the rest of it can be dealt with in one way or another. The speaker, I guess the speaker is important. That voice coil is important too. I'm not going to bore you with all the checks. There's lots of videos online about checking stuff out on these radios, but we can get a schematic and kind of show where stuff is on the schematic compared to, you know, where it is in the radio and then how it's on the schematic. It's weird how they do that, you know, because it's point-to-point wiring. It's not like a circuit board. So the way stuff is laid out on the schematic compared to how it is laid out in the radio are completely different. So we'll take a look at that eventually here. I guess I'll get the multimeter out and start checking stuff. If I find something that's interesting, I'll definitely come back on and show you the signal generator hooked up to the speaker and hear that tone coming through the speaker, make sure that speaker's working okay. I think that'd be probably kind of interesting to see how that works. I'll try and show you how to set it up on the Payco G30. I think that, yeah, Payco G30. Yeah, model G30 Payco signal generator, how to check your voice coil with that. I know you can do it with the signal tracer, but you got to put a signal in on the input somehow, because the output is not real strong coming out of here, and there's no real volume control. It's either the speaker's on or it's off. So, and I would have to have something set up with a signal into it. So the signal generator, we can just hook it right up and see. It's not going to be a big deal. We'll be back in a little bit if I find something interesting to look at. I'm thinking these dog bone resistors are probably okay, but we'll check them. I'll go through and check that stuff. If I find something screwy, I'll come back. This looks like it's going to be pretty hard to check. Kind of confusing to me, but I'll have to look at I'll have to download the schematic and we'll get a look at it here. Alright, well, I've checked the components out on the radio with the multimeter, and everything seems to check out okay, so we can go forward with repairs. You know, obviously the capacitors need to be changed. This is okay. All of the resistors in here appear to be okay within tolerance. You know, there's no marking on this, so this is, you know, I don't think there's silver on the end of that. So this is the body end dot style. Body end dot. So the body end dot. Dot is your multiplier. This is your first digit, your second digit, and your multiplier. So these are pretty easy to check. They follow the same color as the newer resistors. They have the bands. Same thing. Body end dot. Sometimes the dot's missing off of them. You know, it's pretty hard sometimes to tell. I mean, they're old, 1930 something, right? So the way they installed this is I'm not real happy about, but I mean that must be on the ground, so I didn't look at that real close. But I wanted to show you the schematic. It's out of the Riders, Montgomery Ward, page 957, volume 9, page 57. Of the Montgomery Ward section of volume 9. So those perpetual motion books were really big. They had a lot of schematics in them. So this is a different setup than what you would normally see here for your resistors, which is this, I believe. It's kind of weird, right? And then that wire that was wrapped around, it's on the schematic. The cheat. They needed a little capacitance there for some reason between these two wires. I'm not sure why, but it's there. And then there's our, pardon me, our speaker connector. It kind of gives you the letters, right? The two big ones, the two small ones, and gives you letters. And then I think it's down here on the schematic. Yes, this coil, field coil, F1 and F. Gives you a note. So I'm okay with this, and the internal frequency is 465, not 455, 465. So when we get the radio working after we change the electrolytics, we'll set up the signal generator and check where it's set at. If it works, if the radio works. I mean, there's no guarantee this radio works. There could be something fatally wrong with it. Who knows? I haven't found anything. One of the tubes could be bad. I don't have a tube tester yet, so I don't have any way to check those tubes at this moment in time, but there is one being shipped to me. I won it on eBay. It's a Ekio 625. I know it's not the greatest, but it's what I can afford, and it's going to need work. Which, you know, why do this if you're not going to fix your own test equipment? And that's what I've done up here, is I've repaired every piece of that test equipment up there that we've worked with so far. The signal tracer, the vacuum voltmeter, and the Payco signal generator. I took those apart and changed any resistors that I could change. The vacuum voltmeter, there's some on the switch itself, the gang, those precision resistors that I just didn't bother sourcing, because the only reason I want that vacuum voltmeter is for doing alignments and see that AC voltage move. So I didn't think it was that big a deal if it's accurate or not. But it does work, so good enough for what I want it for. The signal tracer works very well, and so does that signal generator. They work very well. So those are the first projects that I done that had vacuum tubes in them. And I thought that was important, that I kind of know how that stuff works before I move on and start repairing radios, you know. Enough about that. It's, you know, your tubes, the 6A7 78 tube, 75, 41, and 5Y3, or a 5, I think that says 5Z4, I'm not sure. I think it says over here though. Yeah, 5Z4. It's either a 5Z4 or a 5Y3. High vacuum rectifier. High vacuum. Don't know what that means. But. And then we have a list. It's really nice. They give you a list of part numbers, and then what the condensers are, the voltage and the size of the condensers, which is very nice. And they give you resistance, right? The resistors, and then their percentages, right? Did they give, yeah, 20%, 30%? Does that say 30%? I didn't even know they made a 30%. Huh. That does say 30%. 10% and 20%. So this is 10 to 20% at 50 volts. I mean, that is kind of weird, isn't it? 210. They all check out okay though. They're well within specifications. 30%. I didn't read that before. 30%. I was just going off by the color of the resistors. So they give you the R1, right? R1, R2, R3, R4, right? R11. And then on the schematic they kind of list them here, R11, R10. So you can correlate, right? I just went off the body, you know, just looked at the colors and kind of figured out what it was. Dial parts and dial drive belt. Dial drive belt. Part number 31-32, BE 131-32. I'm pretty sure that's not available. I will do a check on, pardon me, I'll do a check online to see if, do a search and see if I can just order one, but I'm imagining I'm probably going to have to make one. That might make an interesting video making that. I'll see how I do here. I don't want to look like an idiot, but I probably already do. So, well, we'll see. We'll get that cabinet back out here and we'll check these coils. And then we'll hear if the speaker can make any noise. That'll be interesting. We'll be right back after I get set up. The voice coil transformer. The audio transformer, or the speaker transformer, or whatever you want to call it, is the B plus and the P. the B plus and the P. So this is bottom view of speaker plug. Bottom view of speaker plug. So we need to go to the two smaller pins. Right? The two smaller pins is where we need to hook up our leads. And B plus, the positive, is going to be, let's look at this. So this is upside down of what this is drawn as. So let's turn this. I don't want to flex these wires too much, but we're going to have to do what we got to do. So the B plus is going to be the one closest to my thumb. We'll get her hooked up here. Signal generator's on and warmed up. It's switched over to audio, and I have her cranked all the way up. I got the output turned up as high as it'll go. We'll use these to connect it. So the B plus. I don't know if it really matters which way you hook this up, but this is the way I'm doing it. We'll switch them around if it don't work and see what happens. So I'm just going to go and touch the leads onto the signal generator, and we'll be real quiet and see if we can hear it, because I don't think it's going to be very loud. Yep. Works. Let's reverse the leads and see if it gets louder. I don't think it will, but let's just do it and see. So there's where our positive was, and we'll put our positive where the ground was. We'll go back up here and touch it. I don't think there's anything to damage in there. Works the same. I hope that came through where you could hear it. So it looks like it's a definite go-ahead on the repairs. We'll have to get the speaker out of there eventually, and so you can see where the grill cloth is covering the lens there a little bit. I mean, I just cut the grill cloth to match that, right? So it can't get in there. I don't know how big a deal that is. That grill cloth looks okay to me. It's kind of funky looking, but we'll see how it looks when I get it out. I'm imagining it's probably just connected to this, and then this is mounted to that. So maybe we could peel this off and use some spray adhesive and make it tight on that cardboard. It's pretty interesting. We'll be back when I guess we'll have to get the electrolytics changed. No, dial band first. Let's get, no, because that shaft, the tuning shaft is actually connected to the tuning condenser. So let's see if the radio works first, because it's gonna, like I said, it's not gonna be easy to change that band. All that band does is move that needle on the dial face. The radio will work because the shaft is connected to the tuning condenser. Your knob handle is connected to the tuning condenser, so we'll be able to tune the radio. Just the needle won't move until I make a band, and I got to get material to make the band. So I'll have to figure out what I'm going to use. Well, I got the tubes out, and I thought it was worth taking a look at them. Awards. Sylvania. The 78 tube is a replacement. Sylvania. Wards. So I can only assume that these 4 tubes are the original tubes that came with that radio in 1936-37. That is, to me, amazing if they work. I did do the filament string resistance, and it looks like they're okay. They look like they're okay. So that's about all I can do without a tube tester is, just check the heater voltages, make sure that when they're all plugged in that there's continuity from the first one to the last one. And did they show the filament string in this? I think I just followed the wires in there off of that. No, they didn't show the filament string. They just showed to the heater off of the light. 2 heaters, and then they don't show them what pins they are on the tubes. So I just followed the wires. Went from the first tube in the string to the last tube in the string. They're not showing the heater voltages, the heater connections in here that I can tell. It's funny how they draw these on their sides. The modern other schematics, they're drawn differently, right? So that the plates on top, cathodes on the bottom, screen and grids are on the side. It's funny how they drew those. How they change stuff is, you know, pretty amazing. And then you had to keep up with that. If you were a guy that was used to this, and then you got a schematic for a radio, let's say from 1940, and it's drawn differently, you know, you had to figure it out. Which, you know, probably not that hard if you did it every day, but still, I don't know. All right, well, there it is. We'll be back.